Sunny afternoon, I'm LT Hewitt and I've just seen one battle after another. So, going into this, I like to go into films blind. Preferably, if I can avoid seeing a trailer, if I can avoid seeing anything about a film and I just know that it's a film people are talking about, then that's the best way to go and see a film. And this one, I was thankfully able, despite having listened to a couple of interviews and reviews, I was thankfully able to go into it not really knowing anything about it other than it's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson and the names of a couple of the actors in it, which I think was a good place to start. I will say that with Paul Thomas Anderson generally, I do tend to feel that his films are often quite slow, and I'm not opposed to a long film. I've seen plenty of long films. I've seen plenty of films that are 4 or 5 hours long. Sometimes they justify it. Sometimes they could have been a bit shorter, but I will say in general, I know a lot of people rave about Paul Thomas Anderson. They really, blow smoke up his backside and really think he's the best thing since sliced bread. And I've never quite been able to see it. I enjoyed Boogie Nights. I enjoyed There Will Be Blood. I've enjoyed a few of his films, but I tend to find them like, oh, this is a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. Whereas a lot of people I know will go, this is the best film that's ever been made. And I wish I could see it. I wish I could see things through their eyes because I never quite get what everyone else seems to be seeing in it. Maybe I'm just a bit oblivious. Maybe there's some deep message or metaphor going on that is so powerful that I'm just completely missing it. But so going into this, I was maybe a little bit hesitant. I mean, his previous film, Licorice Pizza, got a lot of acclaim. A lot of people really loved it, and I just thought it was quite a creepy film about underage, like a 15-year-old and someone in their 20s, and then there's just, what is it? Is it Bradley Cooper who's just like a random racist uncle or something like that? I didn't quite get what everyone else seemed to see in it. Licorice Pizza for me was just a bad film. And I like I say, a lot of his films I've seen, I've gone, oh, it's good. It's just not my favorite film. But that one I just thought was not good at all. So I was, and again, Punch Drunk Love. Loads of people have really raved about that as being this groundbreaking, phenomenal film. And again, when I saw it, I just couldn't quite see what everyone else seemed to be seeing. I just don't find Adam Sandler that engaging or interesting that it felt like he was a great lead for that. But anyway, so I was a little bit nervous going into it. A lot of people have been saying this is the film of the year. A lot of people have been saying it's probably going to win all these Oscars. And now I've seen it, I can say I probably agree. This is definitely the best film, the best new film I've seen this year. I've seen, I think, about 180 films this year. Obviously, some of them are like rewatches of older films, but out of however many films, I think it's about 40 films I've seen that have been released in 2025. This is definitely the strongest one. It beats out Weapons and Sinners, which will be, I don't know which will be second and which will be third when it gets to the end of the year, but this is definitely the best film I've seen so far this year. The main thing I noticed is just the pacing. The pacing was so strong. I spent the whole film sat on the edge of my seat, really engaged, really going with it. There were a lot of twists and turns, but I never felt like sometimes with a film you watch it and go, oh, it's too obvious where this is going. I'm not engaged. It's so, I can already basically tell what's going to happen for the rest. I might as well leave the cinema now because nothing's going to surprise me. And then other films you go, it's so surprising and so twisted that it just feels like a series of vignettes. It doesn't feel like one coherent story. And this, I think, found the perfect balance between the two, where I was going along going, where are we going with this? But also I want to know where we're going with this. And also I feel really engaged. And there were a couple of twists, a couple of turns. Like I said, I won't even bother doing like a sort of explain the premise or anything, because I think if you are planning to go and see it, if you haven't seen it yet, if you have seen it, you already know what happens. If you haven't seen it, go in knowing absolutely nothing. Just go into it and just experience it, and it's quite the experience. And there were a couple of shocks that were well done. It wasn't like jump scares. It wasn't like, oh, how can we make people, blow people's socks off by doing something random. There's a particular moment with, I think it's Yolanda Haim. She plays a small role in this, but there is a particular moment that is just, you sense the nerves getting higher and higher and higher, and then there's a moment where I just went, whoa, and I jumped, and my friend jumped. I was watching with and he said the exact same thing. I went to see it with an actor I know who he said the same thing, that he always has a problem with Paul Thomas Anderson's pacing, and this is the one that finally got it just right. Um, and yeah, that there were a few that it felt very real as well. That's something that I think was a strength of it. It felt like I believe in these characters. There've been a lot of films in general, a lot of Hollywood films, but particularly a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson films where I felt like I get you're trying to make a point. I love a film with a message, but I don't really feel like these are people. I feel like they're just sort of they're characters who just exist to make a point about something. Whereas, or maybe they're characters who just exist just to be a bit weird or quirky. Was this one? I genuinely felt like these were all real people, and I believed in their motivations. I believed in their actions. There is a character in it who is, I'm trying to remember her name is Perfidia Beverly Hills. I mean, it's obviously like a bit of a code name, but Perfidia Beverly Hills. There is a moment somewhere into the film where she makes a decision, and I'm trying to be as vague as possible about this. Clearly, she makes a decision about something, and ultimately, I think anyone in the audience can understand why she makes that choice, but I don't think on screen. I don't think she was given enough time to really explore it and really like. We didn't quite see the sort of the dilemma going on. It felt a little bit too sudden. So that would be my main. Well, that would be my main criticism of the first half of the film. Apart from that, every single thing that happened for most of the film was completely flawless. Towards the end, again, I'm trying to avoid spoilers here. There was a moment where there's a really really strong climax, and then we're suddenly taken away into this very predictable B story plot. For it's about 3 scenes. It's about 10 minutes long, and it's very slow and it's very obvious why it happened, what's going to happen, where it's going, and then we return to the main story. And it just, for me, I had a moment where I was really nervous that we were going to fumble the ending, because it felt like it was really going for something. It was really really strong, and then it's just like, oh, where's this ending? Oh, but oh, we're going to see that. Is that the ending? Oh no, we finally get a resolution to the other main thread, you know. And for me, that would be something where, on paper, I think in the script, it probably seemed ideologically, for the many things that the film is trying to say, it probably seemed like that was the best option to do that. But for me, that very much seems like something that should have been cut out in the pre-production process. Somewhere along the way, I think in the writing, well, I say writing, it's just one writer. One of the drafts, that 10 minutes should have been cut out, and I think it would have been an even stronger film. But I don't think it detracts enough from the film to really damage this film's chances of being, you know, winning. Let's be honest, it's going to win a lot of Oscars. I mean, people are currently saying it's a front runner for Best Picture. I think that's quite likely. I think Paul Thomas Anderson is practically a shoe-in for Best Director. I mean, he'll have competitors, but the directing was, it was competent. It was stylish. It was unique. It was distinctly Paul Thomas Anderson. It included a lot of throwbacks to sort of, even though the actual setting of the film isn't quite clear, which I think worked in some ways. Personally, for me, I felt like it started in the present day and then went into the future. But I think maybe some people have assumed it started way in the past. But it was deliberately vague about the actual time period, which I think worked quite nicely. But stylistically, the way it was filmed was very 70s. Like the way the camera work that was done, the actual like the graininess of the quality. It was shot on VistaVision, which I know that Paul Thomas Anderson said I think he discovered when he was doing a short film with Tom York that was called, I think it's called Amina, something like that. Anima, I don't know. He made some short film with Tom York, and said he discovered this new this well, not this new, this film stock from the 50s called VistaVision. I mean, I just want to keep shooting that. I want to use that, and I think I completely admire someone who just says, I know what the style is. I want the music of it was phenomenal. I mean, yeah, I think it was Johnny Greenwood did the score, and but there was just a lot of, and that was a great score, because the points where you felt perfectly he can just make you feel mellow, he can make you feel nervous, he can make you feel tense, just in perfectly the right ways. And I think the actual songs that he used, there's a lot of there's like Steely Dan, they're like some sort of like not obscure songs, but like very much you get the sense that Paul Thomas Anderson has been listening to these on his playlist. They're sort of very much, these are treadmill thoughts where he's listening to that song going, this needs to be in the film, this needs to go here, actually this could work here perfectly. In terms of writing, I heard an interview where he did with Simon Mayer where I think he said he started writing in 2000, roughly around that time. And so there's always the worry when you see a script has been around for, well, been going through various drafts for 25 years, it can end up being like Megalopolis, which, if anyone did see Megalopolis, I'm sorry for your wasted time. That was just a mess. It felt like lots of different things that didn't really go anywhere, didn't really make any sense, and it wasn't really clear why Francis Ford Coppola had spent so long um, writing this film and spent so much of his money working on it just to have nothing to say, just to have loads of random bits that just didn't fit together. So when I heard it had been in the process for that long, I thought, oh god, this is going to be another like terrible film. Like, because sometimes you see films where someone just says, I wrote this in like a fortnight, I just churned it out, because there's just so much passion, there's so much, someone's got that energy, they've got that drive, they've got like that chaos inside them to just push something out so quickly. But I think this film actually, I don't know, it felt very contemporary. I mean, there's a lot of it that, again, without spoiling anything, there's a lot of it that really feels like a very strong reaction to the past 8, 9 years of Trumpism. And I feel like this is a sort of film that, to be honest, probably might not be able to be made for much longer, because the way Trump's going, his sort of takeover of the Kennedy Center, his takeover of various aspects of life, that is trying to, destroy the careers and it's get rid of basically anyone who hasn't been mournful enough for every neo-Nazi who's been killed. I don't think this film, I don't think this film could get made easily. I think a lot of studios would be afraid of getting it made. I think it's very bold of Paul Thomas Anderson to make a film that is so political. I mean, ultimately, for the most part, the film, it's more the sort of first half hour, maybe 40 minutes, that is really the sort of politically engaged part of it. And if anything, that's why I felt like it was set in the present day. And then the parts that are set later in time, I felt like we must be going into the 30s or 40s now. We must be in the future now. But not necessarily so. But yeah, I think it's bold of him to do something which is so politically active, which is making such a bold statement. But I admire that he's doing so without actually compromising the storytelling aspect of it. And there's a B plot concerning not quite a cult, but a sort of a private members club, which I think, if anyone's seen The Master, again, loads of people rave about it because it's kind of a take on Scientology. It's this sort of cult-like thing. But for me, when I watched The Master, I just felt like it was setting the scene, it was building character. It didn't really feel like it had enough of a plot. It didn't really feel like a story. It just felt like sort of scenic, sort of stylish. And I feel like watching this, the very small sections we see of this sort of this gentleman's club, this sort of private members club, I felt like they sort of took what he'd learned from doing The Master and did it in a much more narratively satisfying way, in a way which didn't drag on for however long The Master lasted, and actually just told us the bits we needed to know, and actually showed us. It was only like a few scenes here and there, but I felt like that was a better use of that, what he was going for in The Master, that sort of cult-like obsession, that sort of leadership structure. So yeah, there's lots of bits in this. I'm sure someone who's like a real PTA aficionado could go through and go, actually this is a reference to this, and actually this is based on this, and actually this is using things he's learned in different films. I'm sure someone could really break it down like that. for me personally, I just enjoyed it as it was as a film, but I think I could definitely see it felt like the peak. It felt like the culmination of years of filmmaking, of all the different things in all his films. I mean, I think there's only 2 or 3 of his films that I haven't seen yet, but it feels like everything he's learned through the past 30 odd years of filmmaking has come to a pinnacle, and I think it deserves all the plaudits it wins. Yeah. So, probably unsurprisingly, I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. This is, I think, the first film I've seen at the cinema this year that I've given 10 out of 10. This is, I mean, the only other films I've given 10 out of 10 this year are things like Singing in the Rain, which I've already seen many years ago and already gave 10 out of 10, you know. But this is the first new film I've gone, yeah, 10 out of 10. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe, as always, and I'll see you next time with the film now.